Welcome back to the table and a little bit more of our On the Road to Gen Con coverage, and we are now going to give you a look at Barcelona.
Ooh.
This is the new one from Board and Dice. I've had a chance to play it now 3 times. You've played it
Just
once. But this is going to be a big Euro for Gen Con for sure. Board and Dice always seems to have at least a release at Gen Con. This one is, a medium weight, maybe medium to heavy weight Euro. And this one to me feels, all their Euros feel somewhat different. Mm-hmm. This one feels very different to me than their other ones. Like a lot of their games in the recent past have been like some form of like dice placement or, Toletum and Tekenyu and things like that. Although different, have some similarities. This one feels very fresh to me in terms of how it plays.
The mechanics are definitely different. So some of the things we're doing is on this board, you're placing out two of your workers, and you're doing something from the top and something from the side, and potentially something on a diagonal as well. So you're doing 2 or even possibly 3 actions on your turn, and it ends up with a lot of thinking about which are the 2 or 3 things I want to get done and how do I want to combo those together.
Yeah, I really like this action system, that whole triangulation of like, I'm going to go here and figuring out those 2 actions. The other cool thing is we've only played it with the printed board. There's tiles for all of these spaces.
All of them.
It's like the variability of how this game is going to feel is significant just in that, because the combinations of the 2 actions you might take could be vastly different. And I'm kind of looking forward to playing it with those tiles. Although I'm also kind of scared to play it.
I'm excited to. I like the fact that it's going to be very different from play to play. And basically what we're doing, a lot of these actions are around us. We're building out Barcelona, right? So we're building out the streets, we're building out the buildings, and we've got this Serta track. He was the one who coined urbanization as a term in the 19th century. I learned so much playing this game.
Actually, speaking of that, if you do dig historical notes like that, the rulebook does a fantastic job, much like many other rulebooks you've seen, but this has a lot of those little historical callouts, and they don't interrupt the rule teaching. They are very much called out, but there's a lot of really rich history there. Yeah, like Emily said, we're building out Barcelona here. This is kind of a revitalization of Barcelona, where it kind of came into the modern age. Another thing we're going to be doing here is getting rid of some of our cobblestone. I don't know if that's thematically getting rid of the cobblestone and sort of upgrading, but that's what we're doing off of our player boards onto this other board here, getting some bonuses. All of this kind of combines to a lot of Euro-y goodness.
Yes.
And a ton of point scoring.
Yes.
Like this game has some of the biggest turns that I've felt in a lot of games. Toletum had it a little bit, and we really enjoyed that part.
When we played Toletum, I was like, this is huge, the amount of points you can get in a turn. Yeah. This is more.
This is crazy.
For sure, hands down.
In the 3 games I've played, 2 of them I scored 300 and something, and the last one at 3 players, I think I scored less, and I don't know if that had to do with the player count.
Well, we also rushed the ending. So the second part of it, so the first part is you're going to take your actions. The second part is you must build a building if it's possible. And this is not just from what you just placed, but also from what's been placed earlier in the game. You have a little bit of options of what kind of building you want to build, but basically you're going to be taking some of these things back and putting them on this community-led 3 tracks and putting it in the next spot. When you do that, you'll look at the lowest available points. So right now it's 18 because it's the end of the game.
Yeah, this is kind of an end game situation here.
And get that many points. So at the end of the game, we were scoring 18 points.
Just at the end of each turn, practically, if you're building. And we did kind of gloss over this. There are some other videos out now on other channels that actually show the game being played, so you can watch those if you want to get a little thorough description. But like we started to say earlier, you're taking these citizens out of a bag at the end of each of your turns. And these are the 2 citizens you're going to use on the next turn. These are the guys that you're going to be placing in these intersections, and they come in these 3 different colors. And then, like Emily was just saying, at the end of your turn, you have to look at the board and go, okay, are there citizens able to contribute to the building of these buildings here? And it doesn't take many. The base building only takes 2 citizens of any color, and then the slightly upgraded one takes 1 citizen, and then maybe a specific color, and so on. And those are worth more points and whatnot. But you remove those citizens, and this I wanted to spend a little bit more time on, because this is a really interesting feeling situation, because as you fill these are practically, at least in a 4-player game, they're completely empty. And you start down here. So depending on what citizens are getting pulled from the bag and what citizens you're choosing to sort of put on the top of your stacks out there, you're going to be removing maybe strategically a bunch of green if you want to really rush the first scoring, because there's a scoring here, another third scoring here, and then end game scoring.
Yes.
So you can really have a varied game where you rush green. You might even be able to pull more green and get green to happen again, which kind of happened in our game.
It kind of happened in ours, yeah. We went really strong on red, and to the very end we were kind of like, oh my gosh, this is happening a lot faster than we expected. Whereas you could play a game where you kind of were a little bit more strategically being a little of each, and then play a much longer game, get much higher scoring after that. But I loved the fact that, yes, it was very player-driven, and you can kind of make it faster and then make it slower depending on what you're trying to do at which point.
Yeah, now I will say the size of those turns may be a double-edged sword for some people. I love it, and we loved it last night when we played 3 players, because we were all people who are fine with people taking big turns and taking their time. And I wouldn't say this lends itself to analysis paralysis, but like we said last night,
just analysis.
Just analysis, because there is a lot to consider, and we love doing that. But if you're a player who doesn't like waiting for your turn, a 4-player game of this probably will take a while to get around to you. What I would encourage you to do if you're like that, enjoy everyone else's turn while you're waiting.
There's so much you can do and so many different combinations, right?
Yes.
And there's only like 2 different economies going on in the game. So a lot of the things are very flexible and very possible. So you're just sitting there thinking, I think I can do this if I can just figure it out. But that takes a little while to figure out, right? So you have to have the patience to be willing to wait while everyone's doing that.
Right, and we actually had fun. We're weirdos like this. We're literally helping each other figure those puzzles out, because we just can't stand by and not participate in a puzzle to be solved. But it was really fun, because we were like, on Caitlin's turns, our friend, she wasn't sure how her last turn was going to go, and we all sat there, and then she finally came up with it herself, but it was like,
it had to be at least 40 points, at least a 40-point turn.
Yeah.
She got that 18 points, and I think she got 20 or more from the other thing she did in her action. It was crazy, but she did finally get it.
Yeah, so the name of the game here is tons of points to score and a massive amount of variability. We also didn't mention these scoring tiles down here are also variable. 3 different ones are going to come out, and these are what score at these segments of the game. Those things will completely drive you to play a different game. I sort of consider myself that guy who says, I'm going to try it differently, and then I never do. You absolutely have to in this game, because if you don't, you're not going to score any points during these scoring phases.
And these things too, they're a multiplicative effect, where it's like with the track and with this and how often you've done it. So you see someone else score and you're like, oh wow, they only did it 3 times, but somehow they scored like 12 points. That's huge.
Yeah.
And then you want to do it each time.
This game, if you like points and you like thinking about all the different ways that you can score them, give Barcelona a try. If you're at Gen Con, definitely check it out. Also, if you're Gen Con and you see us, flag us down and say hi. Maybe we can get a game in together. Maybe, sort of, if we have time. But until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.